How does a Boeing 777, one of the most advanced passenger jets in the world, simply vanish into thin air? No distress signal, no trace, no explanation, just 239 people gone. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 is more than just a tragedy. It's one of the greatest aviation mysteries in history. And 10 years later, we're still asking the same haunting question. What really happened that night? March 8, 2014. The clock had just passed 12:40 a.m. in Kuala Lumpur. Flight MH370 lifted off the runway, bound for Beijing. 239 people aboard. Pilots Zahari Ahmad Shah and Farik Abdul Hamid had done this route countless times. The weather was clear, the systems all green. But less than 40 minutes into the flight, something happened. At 1:19 a.m., the co-pilot signed off with air traffic control. "Good night, Malaysian 370. It would be the last words ever heard from the aircraft. Just 2 minutes later, the plane disappeared from radar. Air traffic control in Ho Chi Minh was expecting the handover. But MH370 never contacted them. They tried to reach out. No response. At first, authorities assumed it was a technical issue. Planes sometimes lose radio briefly, but then the minutes stretched into hours. By dawn, the airline declared the flight missing. A search operation began over the South China Sea, the last known location of the aircraft. But there was nothing. No debris, no signals, no oil slicks, just silence. Then came a stunning discovery from the Malaysian military. Unbeknownst to civilian air traffic control, the plane had been tracked on military radar, making a strange, sweeping turn back west across the Malaysian peninsula, and then northwest into the Andaman Sea. Someone had deliberately turned the plane around. This transponder, the signal that allows tracking, had been shut off manually. The plane had flown for nearly 6 more hours after losing contact. But where was it going? Thanks to satellite handshakes, automatic pings between the aircraft and a satellite above the Indian Ocean, investigators found the last known signal. It was somewhere over the southern Indian Ocean, far from any land, and far from the original flight path. A place so remote, it's sometimes called the oceanic graveyard. The plane had likely run out of fuel and crashed into the sea. But here's the thing, we still don't know why, or how. Theories that still haunt us. Over the years, dozens of theories have emerged. The pilot did it. Captain Zahari, a skilled and respected pilot, came under suspicion. He had a sophisticated flight simulator at home. Investigators found a simulated route eerily similar to MH370's final path. But there was no motive, no suicide note, no proof. Hijacking? Some suggested a possible hijacking, but no terrorist group claimed responsibility. And no ransom demands were ever made. Mechanical failure or fire? Could a fire or cabin depressurization have disabled the crew? If so, how did the plane fly so far on autopilot without being seen? Government cover-up? More conspiratorial theories say governments may be hiding what really happened, but again, no solid evidence. For years, international teams searched. It became the most expensive aviation search in history, spanning 46,000 square miles of ocean. Then in 2015, a breakthrough. A piece of a plane wing called a flaperon washed up on Réunion Island, east of Africa. It was confirmed to be from MH370. More small parts followed. A wing flap here, a fuselage panel there. Found along the coastlines of Madagascar, Mozambique, and Tanzania. But the main wreckage? Still lost. Families waited, hoped, mourned. Every year, memorials are held. But the pain doesn't fade. Some relatives still believe the truth is being hidden. Others have found closure in uncertainty. But across the world, one question lingers. How can a plane just disappear? MH370 was more than a plane. It was a lifeline for 239 souls. Parents, children, artists, students. In the age of satellites and surveillance, we never imagined such a mystery could still exist. But maybe that's the most haunting part. That even with all our technology, some answers remain underwater, unheard, unknown. For the next 72 hours, the world watched. not in hope, but in disbelief. A Boeing 777, with over 200 souls on board, had vanished without a trace. No distress signal. Just a void so complete, it felt almost supernatural. At 2:22 a.m., hours after MH370 disappeared from radar, the Malaysian military radar quietly picked up something strange. An unidentified aircraft crossing the Malay Peninsula. It turned sharply west, crossed over the Strait of Malacca, then veered south into the vast nothingness of the Indian Ocean. That aircraft was almost certainly MH370. But this raised even more disturbing questions. Why was the plane flying in the opposite direction of its intended route? Who was in control? Why was the transponder, the plane's digital signature, turned off? Every answer only deepened the mystery. With no wreckage found and traditional radar now useless, authorities turned to something unexpected. A British company called Inmarsat. Their satellite had exchanged brief hourly handshakes with MH370. Just digital pings. Not content, not position, just proof that the plane was still alive. Somewhere. These pings continued for 7 hours after takeoff. That meant the plane had stayed airborne until at least 8:19 a.m., long after its fuel should have run dry. Based on the Doppler effect, yes, like how ambulance sirens change pitch when they pass, Inmarsat calculated that the plane most likely followed a southern arc, ending in the remote southern Indian Ocean, an area more desolate than the moon. The search area was staggering. 120,000 square kilometers of open ocean, deeper than skyscrapers are tall, battered by shifting currents and 10-meter waves. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, led the deep-sea search. Specialized ships with sonar scanned the ocean floor. Underwater drones mapped the seafloor's topography. They expected to find wreckage within months. But days turned into weeks, weeks into years, and still nothing. It became the most expensive search in aviation history, over $160 million spent. Still no black boxes, no fuselaje, just a growing sense of unease. Had the ocean swallowed MH370 whole? In July 2015, over a year after the disappearance, hope flickered again. On the shores of Réunion Island, a French territory east of Madagascar, a man discovered a barnacle-covered airplane flaperon. Testing confirmed it belonged to MH370. It was the first and most significant piece of debris ever found. Over the following years, more fragments washed up on beaches in Mozambique, Tanzania, and South Africa, all consistent with the Boeing 777. But they didn't solve the mystery. They only confirmed the tragic assumption. The plane had ended in the ocean. Despite partial debris, the central question still echoes unanswered. What really happened aboard MH370? Here are some of the major theories, none proven but all compelling. Pilot suicide? Captain Zahari Shah had a full flight simulator in his home. Investigators found he had practiced a route ending deep in the Indian Ocean. Some believe he deliberately diverted the plane in a carefully executed mass murder-suicide. But no motive was ever found. His family denies this theory. So do some independent experts. Hijacking? Could it have been a rogue pilot or hijackers who seized control? The sudden transponder shutoff, the manual turnback, the high-altitude zigzags, they all suggest human decision-making, not technical failure. But if it was a hijacking, why no demands? Why no communication? Military shoot down? Another theory suggests the plane might have been shot down, either accidentally or deliberately, and the truth covered up. But no hard evidence supports this. And such a conspiracy involving multiple nations would be nearly impossible to hide. Mechanical failure? Could a fire, decompression, or malfunction have caused the pilots to lose consciousness, leaving the plane on autopilot until it ran out of fuel? It's possible, but the complex turns and altitude changes suggest someone was in control. Years have passed. Malaysia declared MH370 lost in 2015. The official investigation ended in 2018 with no definitive conclusion. A private search in 2018 by Ocean Infinity, using advanced autonomous submarines, also turned up nothing. And so, MH370 remains one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. Loved ones still wait. A mother still checks her phone. A child still asks where daddy went. The ocean keeps its secrets, and sometimes silence is the loudest answer of all. If this story left you unsettled, that's because it should. Not every mystery ends with a revelation. Some end with a reminder that control is an illusion, that answers don't always arrive, and that closure isn't guaranteed. Flight MH370 reminds us how quickly the ordinary can become unexplainable. That even in the age of satellites, global radar, and real-time tracking, a plane can disappear, and with it, hundreds of stories, thousands of dreams. So the next time you board a plane, hug a loved one, or simply walk through life as if it's guaranteed, remember MH370, not as a tragedy, but as a fragile, floating reminder of how precious and uncertain each moment really is. This wasn't just a flight number. These were people, and they deserve to be remembered. If the story moved you, subscribe, not for algorithms or numbers, but so you never forget the stories that still echoes.